Good evening. Good evening. How you guys doing? Muy buenas noches a todos y a todas. Uh, I'm just having a little bit technical issues, but I was able to finally connect. So give me a couple, 1 or 2 minutes for people to connect. Let me share. Let me share this the screen. Thank you all for your patience in being with me here. I really appreciate it. Well, hopefully with this presentation can be a great help. I'm going to give like a minute or so for more people to connect. Just let me know if you can hear me, if you can see me, if you can say yes or no. That would be, I really appreciate it. If si me puedes escuchar, sí o no, se lo agradecería. Just remember, this is going to be the first episode. This episode is going to be in English first. Then we're going to do the Spanish one at 8. So if you're in for the Spanish one, tune in at 8. This will be English first. So please share this with everybody that you know. And let's wait a minute or two for more people to connect. Share this for everybody that you know. Okay, we have my documents ready. And let me see here. Okay. All right. Okay, let's go on the count of three. We're going to go with what we have. All right. Okay, let's do this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let me make sure the microphone is working. And let's go. Good evening, and thank you and good evening to everybody. Thank you all for joining me in this episode of My Time with Tony Hernandez Pumarejo. And this is your host, Tony Hernandez Pumarejo. It is an honor and privilege for all of you to be here with me today, watching this live episode of my podcast on Facebook and YouTube. Just a reminder for everybody that this episode will be published on the rest of my platforms for my podcasts, such as Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts. So if you haven't done so, please share this episode with everybody that you know. Spread the word, because today we're going to talk about a topic which has been at the forefront of, of our society, especially the last couple of months, and especially more the last couple of days, which is the topic of abortion, which is one of the most controversial, I have to say, perhaps the most divisive issue happening right now in our country and also in other parts of the world. So I'm going to talk about that today from my perspective, my opinion. I'm going to talk about its impact of abortion on disability rights, and hopefully at the end of this episode we can think about ways in which we can help families that are in need towards creating better policy initiatives to help families, to help women, and to help everybody in terms of quality of life, which is the end of the goal. So if you have any questions, please write them down in the comments, and because we're going to discuss it at the end of the episode. So let us begin. So thank you all for being with me here tonight. Um, the reason why I'm doing this episode is because of what is happening. You know, if you're not familiar, or especially if you're outside of the United States, most likely you will be familiar. There has been a lot of issues in regards to the overturning of Roe v. Wade, If you don't know, Roe v. Wade was a 1973 ruling that was made by the Supreme Court back then, which gave federal rights towards abortion across the country. And which, even though the abortion is not in the Constitution, because of that ruling, that ruling gave towards giving rights throughout all the states for abortion. And there have been a lot of debates, a lot of different points of view in regards to this very divisive topic, from different points of view, society's points of view, religious points of view, political point of view. It's a topic that is very, very sensitive and very divisive. In my opinion, it should not be, and I'll tell you why in a little bit. But there have been a lot. There have been a lot of fights in our society in terms of keeping or repealing Roe v. Wade, and those fights came into the point in early May when there was a leak in the media in which it indicated that the Supreme Court was going to overturn Roe v. Wade, and that created a wide range of reactions, protests, arguments and fights everywhere in the country. And it's a very, very, as I mentioned, very sensitive and divisive issue, and which was confirmed this past Friday when the Supreme Court officially overturned Roe v. Wade. And with that decision, what it did was to turn Roe v. Wade into back, eliminate Roe v. Wade and bring the debate of abortion back to the states. So let the states decide, let the people decide in regards to this very, very complicated, very sensitive issue. And since that time, there have been states that have pushed for more pro-abortion policies. There have been other states, a lot of states pushing for more restrictions on abortion or more anti-abortion policies. There have been unfortunate events in regards to attacks, at the different churches, especially the Catholic churches, pregnancy centers by very, pro-abortion groups, unfortunately. And it's being a very divisive issue, especially here. Um, Basically, right now there's a lot of divisions right now in regards to this ruling, and my goal has always tried to be to understand the different points of view. But today I'm going to talk about my point of view and my perspective on this uh, in regards to this ruling. I personally agreed with this ruling. Why? Because, originally the ruling indicated back in 1973 that abortion was a constitutional right. But in reality, abortion is not in the US Constitution, meaning that it had never been a constitutional right. Another thing, the ruling took away the power, of the states to decide whether they wanted to, push more, abortion policies or not. So it took away, and in return gave power back to the states under the 10th Amendment to be able to let the states decide this very, very difficult issue. So, constitutionally, it was the right call. So that way, let the different states decide, let the different populations decide about this very, very difficult situation. Because unfortunately, abortion, which began as something that is like completely something that rarely happens, that is safe, and do it unless it's as a last resort. Unfortunately, since 1973, it got expanded and it got to a point in which, unfortunately, a lot of, things, a lot of times, abortion was reused, for the wrong reasons. I'm pro-life, and I don't agree with abortion at all. But it got to expand abortion towards, not wanting the child, more like a birth control policy, much more than than rape situations. According to latest statistics, around 92% of people elected to do abortion was because of election, much more than abortion, than rape, which was less than 1 or 2%. That's one. So it's very unfortunate that because of the issues happening in our society in regards to the attacks on family or not supporting policies that will support family, we have got to this point. And again, I'm trying to understand the different points of view, but again, I cannot defend, killing an innocent life, even though that person has not been born, because life begins at conception. And that's the reality, not only from the religious perspective, but also scientific, studies. And so, and it's become very sad that in the last couple months, there were a lot of, you know, measures being presented, at the federal level, at different states, which will permit abortion up to 9 months, which for me, that will be, which would be completely unacceptable, because, it would be completely unacceptable to be able to, to kill a a human who is inside a full development just before the moment of birth. And even worse, and this is something that unfortunately the news media, the mainstream media doesn't talk about, is that in California recently, um, there was a bill that was approved which will permit pro health reproductive policies. In other words, will push for this infanticide killing of babies up to 4 weeks after birth, which is unthinkable how the state government in California even considered that type of measure. And unfortunately, abortion got transformed from something that it is last resort, safe and unfortunate, but something that became about power and bragging, which is very sad because you're destroying another life. And this is the sad thing. Since 1973, around 63 million living, human beings have been killed by abortion. And how I do connect this to the special needs disability advocacy work that I do? Well, it's even worse because recently there was an article that was released about for example, the use of prenatal testing, for example, to be used to identify autism at an early stage. And unfortunately, that can be used as an excuse towards having abortion. This was an article which I will recommend all of you to find about prenatal testing for autism, which I'm going to put down in the link below. Which it was written by Father Schneider, which is Catholic and also autistic. And why I bring the prenatal testing and what does it have to do with with abortion? Well, simple. In 2017, 2018, not here, but in different countries in Europe, like Iceland, like Denmark, they implemented and made advancements in regards to the use of prenatal testing to identify Down syndrome. And they were able to make this advancements in creating effective ways to identify Down syndrome in the prenatal testing. And as a result of that, and which is one of the most saddest things, tragic things I've ever read, that was used to put a control on the population of Down syndrome in those European countries. You can look it up, Down syndrome, Iceland, Down syndrome, Denmark, the way in which they were able to solve the Down syndrome issue. And as a result of that, after those measures were implemented, the population for Down syndrome in those countries, Denmark, Iceland, and many other European countries, decreased between 70 up to 95%. And the worst part of the all is that the mainstream media, there was a report by CBS, which did which did a report on the situation, and they didn't paint it as as something horrific. They painted it as something that as science progress, like something that is not too like seriousness. And it's very sad because prenatal testing was used to abort babies with Down syndrome. And as I said, in the United States, 77% of of moms who have received a prenatal testing indicating that their child was diagnosed with Down syndrome, 77% decided to do an abortion. And those numbers in Iceland, 90%, Denmark, 95%. And it's very sad as because you people can in the mainstream media and others may say, oh, it was used to control the situation, but in reality it was used to kill innocent lives. And even worse is in addition to this prenatal testing situation, is recently there have been used of disability, special needs as as a reason why we need to have abortion rights. That has been in most circles, that advocate for disability rights, that advocate for autism, for the autism population, they condemn the overturn of Roe v. Wade. Some of the reasons in which some of these groups, opposed the overturning of Roe v. Wade was because because of this ruling, our disability rights are going to be threatened. We're going to lose our disability rights, and they have used that. Obviously, the health of the mother was disabled and not having access to abortion, and many other reasons. But even more sad than anything is that they have started using. Some people have been using disability or special needs as a reason why we need to do abortion rights, and this is which is even more sad, and which is even more it's even sadder that a lot of leaders who are who advocate for people that have autism and other disabilities didn't condemn these comments, and which I'm going to show it to you right now. There was a comment made by political analyst Ana Navarro, who is Republican, supposedly, on CNN. She was condemning and criticizing the overturning of Roe v. Wade, but she did something that was very despicable, which was to bring her family members with special needs as an excuse as to why we need to have abortion rights or control. So I'm going to show it to you because that way you can think you may say, oh, you're making things up. I'm not. I'm going to show you the video. So let's go to the video for a moment here. And let's play the video so that way you can see it from Ana Navarro's mouth.
Uterus. And because I have a family with a lot of special needs kids, I have a brother who's 57 and has the mental and motor skills of a 1-year-old. And I know what that means financially, emotionally, physically for a family.
It looks like we lost connection.
And I know not all families can do it. And I have a step granddaughter who was born with Down syndrome. And you know what? It is very difficult in Florida to get services. It is not as easy as it sounds on paper. And I've got another.
It's having some technical issues.
Step grandson who is very autistic, who has autism, and it is incredible. And their mothers and people who are in that society, who are in that community, will tell you that they've considered suicide because that's how difficult it is to get help, because that's how lonely they feel, because they can't get other jobs, because they have financial issues, because the care that they're able to give.
Okay, that's enough. That's enough. Okay, so you saw the video, and not to be, I agree with some points about, yes, in regards to the challenge, the difficulty of getting access to services for special needs with people with disabilities. Um, I agree with the challenges of, financial struggles, getting a job, getting care for people with autism and other disabilities. I agree with that. But my question is, why you're bringing your families with special needs, with disabilities, into an abortion, as the reason why we need to have abortion? What does disability rights, in terms of getting access to support, had to do with abortion rights? Why you're even mentioning that? Bringing your family members, can be viewed as, hey, this, people with a disability, with special needs, are suffering, and this, because of that, to avoid the suffering, they need to, we can afford to have them. So women had to have the abortion rights to start bringing people with special needs and disabilities. This really sounds like a eugenics um, policy of selecting somebody because he or she has a disability. And the argument for abortion rights has always been the health and well-being of the mom, of the woman, the reproductive rights, you know, the that has been the arguments, and the woman deciding, have the decision over her own body, which in reality has not been being respected, by the government itself, especially through the vaccine mandates. But that's another thing that I'm not want to talk about this moment. So why you're bringing special needs, people with disabilities into the abortion debate? What is the reason? Now, as I mentioned before the video, there have been different advocates uh, for different autism organizations, disability rights organizations, that have not one of them have condemned the comments that Ms. Anna Navarro, eugenics comments that she made, putting her family members with special needs in regards of supporting abortion rights. There have been no condemnation, because a lot of times people with advocates for autism and special needs, they use about having to us, because I'm an advocate myself, about having rights to a quality of life. We are concerned a lot of times that we get discriminated. That can be used as a form of discrimination, because they're using the disability as an excuse to not let you live, to kill you. And that's not, there's no excuse, there's no reason why to support this. And as I mentioned about the prenatal testing, it's very concerning that many, and I imagine there have been others who have brought comments about, you know, there's a lot of people with disabilities and special needs, and we're bringing to this world. They're defective. We need to make sure that putting control population, just like we did in Iceland and Denmark with the Down syndrome population. So overall, you know, we are pushing, after and the things that have been done after the ruling of different companies, instead of pushing, measures like to help families, for example, with, you know, paid leave after a pregnancy for women, more paying for expenses and paid leave and mental health. They have paid for abortions and to get access to abortions in other states or other countries. Companies paying for that, but they don't pay for paid leave. What does that tell you? Some people, women, a lot, they can say that the woman may feel powered by this, but in reality, abortion is one of the worst things to go through. It only affects, it affects the health of both the woman, both the mom, and the living being, and the being inside the womb. Now, I'm not telling you to agree with me with my positions. I want you to really think. I want you to not go by what is being thrown out there by mainstream media or the emotional sides of both, both, not only the pro-choice but also the pro-life. I want you to really think about what abortion really is, do research about it, and to see if you're going to still support this or not. So it's a very um, it's a very complicated situation at this moment, but we need to push for more initiatives that is pro-life. That's what we need to do. I think, and the decision that was made was not the end of banning of abortion completely. No, it went back to the states. So that's something we need to remember. So overall, we need to find a way towards looking at disability rights not from the only from the perspective of pro-choice but also pro-life. We need to look at beyond disability rights, the ways in which we had to work together towards creating the better conditions to raise families and to raise childcare. There's a lot that we need to do much more in that. Yes, I agree with that. We need to come together despite our differences to push for family initiatives, for pro-life initiatives, to help more, especially with people with disabilities, families that have loved ones with disability, not look at it as a burden, to create more support. We had to come together and to make sure, especially, you know, a parent, a mom that has a baby inside the womb, to make sure that we're doing everything to support her. And but we had to talk about the reason about pro-life, to not make sure that make it one day. I'm not sure if I'm going to see it in my lifetime, but to make it one day in which abortion is completely unnecessary. That would be the ideal scenario, and that's something that, as I said, yeah, I don't saying this. You may say, "Oh, you're a Christian. You're putting your religion over others." Even if I'm not Christian, I'm pro-life. Or religions, I'm pro-life. I don't believe in the killing of the innocent, and that's what is being pushed on as reproductive rights, protecting the health of the mom, which is completely not true. And using again special needs, a disability, or any other, or using the cost of raising a child or the difficulties as an excuse of abortion is completely unacceptable. And also, again, abortion was never a constitutional right. It's not in the Constitution either. It was a privilege that was made by the mistake in 1973 that has been corrected, in my opinion. So overall, I want you guys, all of you that are listening to me or watching me tonight, to really think about this, to do your own critical thinking. We go beyond the noise, research what abortion truly is, and then you make up the decision. But we need to do much more, especially in our country, I admit it, towards pushing more pro-life family environment, family policies. That's what we need to do. And I think we can work together, the pro-choice, the pro-life, and the disability rights movements together towards achieving that. But I will always fight for pro-life, no matter what anybody says. So that's what I wanted to share with all of you this evening. And I greatly appreciate, if I don't see we have any questions. Let me double check for a moment. I don't see any questions. Okay. If you have any questions, any comments that you would like to leave, please do so. Whether you agree or disagree with what I said, I'd like to hear it. Stand up and think about yourself. That's what I'm saying. And let's have a debate, and let's find ways, more important than the debate, find ways towards helping create more pro-life, more pro-family policy. So that's what we need to do. So if you have any questions, any comments, any concerns, I invite you to follow and subscribe to my podcast, whether you're Spotify, Apple, you know, Google Podcasts. Subscribe to my podcast, My Time with Tony Hernandez Pumarejo. I also invite you to get to go to follow me on Facebook, Tony H. Puma, Instagram under Tony Hernandez Pumarejo in all of my social media, and also my website, TonyHernandezPumarejo.com. And also, if you haven't done so, get a copy of my book, An Autism Unscripted Life, which talks about, if you don't know much about my story or who I am, I'm an autistic advocate. I can talk about, my life on the spectrum from childhood to adulthood. If you haven't done so, please get a copy of my book, An Autism Unscripted Life. And again, thank you so much for being with me here tonight in this very difficult topic, but we need to talk about it, and we need to find ways to create a better society. So thank you so much. And this is Tony Hernandez Pumarejo. And I wishing everybody a great night. Much blessings. Thank you.